The level of evil just kept on intensifying as I got older. And I played semi-pro basketball for a few years. I was doing very well, very successful. And it wasn't long after that to where I had an injury that took my basketball career from me. My life really spiraled out of control because my identity was gone. I wasn't the basketball player anymore. I always tried to be a good person. Yeah, I partied, I did things, but I was always kind and loving to people, and I never wanted to hurt people. And I was really upset with God because now I lost everything that I ever had hope in. So God was definitely not in the picture of my life at that point. And I was so full of shame as well from the life that I had been living that I didn't want to turn to Him anyway. I just continued to run further and further from God. And I got involved in heavier stuff. And as my leg was healing, I started rehabilitation with my knee. I started getting my strength back. I started finding a little purpose again, and I decided to join the military. I did very well in boot camp. My competitive nature, my athletic ability carried me pretty far in the Navy. And I was in for a couple years, and they found out I had pins in my knee, and I had to end up getting out on an honorable discharge. 2 weeks before getting out on an honorable discharge, I ended up getting drunk, and we were pulled over by cops. And the police officer came up to me and asked me, "Have you been drinking?" And I was like, "Yes, sir, I have," because I wasn't a liar. I always really told the truth. And well, I ended up going to jail. At that time, I didn't know that God was protecting me, but He was, because my military papers were already processed, so it didn't go on my military record. I ended up staying with my mom at that time. She would drop me off at a corner with my bicycle, and I would go deliver packages in downtown Houston as a courier every day. And one day, my bike ended up getting stolen. The person I had in my apartment with ended up taking everything I had, and I ended up on the streets homeless. And it was around that same time, my dad, out of the blue, he asked me to come and live with him, and he would help me get back on my feet. And I really had no options. It was like a lifeline thrown to me. So I ended up taking my dad's offer, and he continued to supply all my bad habits. He would buy me cigarettes, he would buy me beer, he got me a vehicle, and I was working at a club again as a waitress. And one night, again, leaving the club, the police came to my window and again asked me the question, "Ma'am, have you been drinking?" And again, I said yes. And I ended up going to jail that night in Huntsville, Texas. That's when I really started having the reality check that I'm gonna end up dying in this kind of lifestyle if I don't change it. And it was a very difficult time, but I knew that something had to change. The last Sunday of August in 2002, I found a church, and I walked into that church that Sunday, hopeless, broken, desperate for help and change. And I went to the altar at the end of the service and I said, "God, if there's anything you can do with my life, I am yours." And that's when He came and He picked me up, and all of a sudden I had no desire to drink. I had no desire to smoke. I had no desire to cuss. I had no desire to do the things that I was doing. I really wanted to have a relationship with God, but I just really didn't know how. So I just started going to church, reading my Bible, doing devotions. I did that for about a year and still struggling, trying to figure out, like, how do I get rid of the hate? How do I get rid of the anger? How do I get rid of the shame? I'm going to church and I'm doing all these things, but inside me, I still have all these things in my heart. And it wasn't long after that to where I started backsliding again. I started working at the YMCA as a spinning instructor and a personal trainer, and I was gaining influence and clients, and things were going really well for me at that time. It was May 24th of 2006. I walked into a YMCA in Pearland, Texas, and a lady behind the counter looked at me and said, "I have a letter for you." It was 9 pages long. The letter started off saying, "Do not despise small beginnings." It talked about me being a prophet to the nations. It talked about me being an ambassador for Christ. It talked about how my Father is well pleased with me and that I was his daughter. And I remember thinking at that time that this lady was crazy. But she told me that the Holy Spirit told her to pick up a pen and a paper and begin writing, and that was for me. So when I got the letter, I didn't think nothing of it. I just kind of threw it in the corner of my room and just continued all my life being the personal trainer at the YMCA, teaching and spending classes. And as my clientele grew, as my prestige and my influence grew, in 2007, I started a little studio gym. I was doing women's figure bodybuilding competitions. I had a beautiful home. I had a Cadillac CTS car, a motorcycle. I had basically the American dream at 27. But again, I found myself empty. You know, I had all of those things, but I was completely empty on the inside. I had a void. And that void continued to grow in my life, even though I had everything. I remember I was swimming one day, and as I was swimming, I heard a voice in my head. You know, it was an internal voice say, "You're willing, but you're not available." And I immediately knew who it was and what he was talking about because of the letter that I got in 2006. When God spoke those words that you're willing, but you're not available, I remember, Malachi chapter 3, verse 10, where it's talking about bring all your tithes to the storehouse and test and see if I won't open up the windows of heaven and pour out a blessing to you. Well, I took it as more along the lines that I had the attitude in saying, okay, God, if you're real, I'm going to put you to the test. All right, I'm going to put everything I have online and say that if you want it, come and get it. And if you're real, God, have my house emptied out by the end of the day. And that was my way of testing God. And you know what? He proved himself to be true because my house was empty by the end of the day. God was wanting me to make myself available for him. I had the will, but I had too many responsibilities. And I knew that I was going to have to start cutting strings. If it was with my materialistic things, relationships, bad influences, not only that, but preparing myself was another big one. I had to make myself available. So I started reading my Bible. I started studying my Bible like hours upon hours. From 2008, from the time I got rid of my gym, I did everything I possibly could to make myself available to God. I ended up having 2 suitcases, going back to my mom's house, sleeping on her sofa. I ended up starting to work at IHOP, serving food and being a waitress. I remember I would always treat it like my mission field. I would go to the IHOP every single day and be like, okay, God, who is it here that you want me to talk to? Because of doing every little thing that I personally could do to make myself available to him.